Hi guys, I am here to talk to you about 113 to 124. Hopefully you guys did a little bit of the reading and you actively read and pointed out some really important things. But if you didn't, make sure that you have your post-it notes handy and we're going to go through these pages, okay? I am going to start a little further back from the actual beginning of part 3, Burning Bright. So if you guys just want to follow along on 107, that'd be great. So on 107, we know that Beatty and all of the other firemen have arrived at Montag's house. And Montag is kind of in shock. He's like, oh my gosh, they're really at my house. This is happening. So Beatty is kind of crazy in the head. And he basically is like, you're going to do this. You're going to burn your own house down. And you're not just going to burn it by throwing kerosene on it and then lighting it up with a match. No, you're going to go in there with the flamethrower. Now remember, the flamethrower is like a hose that has water, but instead of water, it has actual fire that comes out of it. He wants Montag to go into every room and basically burn every section of his house. So imagine just not watching all of your stuff burn, but you being the reason that everything is burning. That's, it's tough. He didn't have any time to run in and grab like anything that might have been meaningful or important to him. No, he's basically there and he has to burn his house. Now, before he actually goes in, his wife Mildred comes out, and she's running out, and there's like a taxi cab that's waiting for her at the curb, and he's like, Mildred, Mildred, and all she says is, let's see, let me find it. I am now on page 108. She says, poor family, oh, everything gone, everything gone now. So she doesn't even stop to talk to her husband. She is just referring to her TV parlor walls. She doesn't even care that it's not, that her house is getting burned down and what might happen to her husband. It's all about her parlor walls. So at that moment, Montag is like, wow, this is happening to me. It's like it hits him again. And Faber is in his ear. If you guys remember, when Faber and Montag met up at Faber's house, Faber gave him a little seashell, a tiny little thing, maybe like the size that you could put into your ear. Nobody can see it. And Faber is on one end and Montag is on the other. And he can hear whatever Montag hears and he can talk to him and Montag can hear Faber's voice. All right. That probably reminds you a little bit about like a Bluetooth now, okay? So Bluetooths today can do that. Faber is trying to find out, hey, can you get out of there? What are you doing there? What's happening? And Montag's still kind of in shock. Beatty doesn't realize that Montag has that little piece in his ear. So moving on to page 109, again, Faber's telling him, can you run away? And Beatty says a really important line. He says, what is there about fire that's so lovely? No matter what age we are, what draws us to it? Okay, so again, just the significance of fire. Fire is a big symbol in this entire book, obviously. So what is it about fire that kind of makes us want to go towards it, all right? That burning sensation, those flames, that bright red and orange color. What is it about it? And he says, if you let it go on, it burn our lifetimes out. What is a fire? It's a mystery. Scientists give us gobbledygook about friction and molecules, but they don't really know. Its real beauty is that it destroys responsibility and consequences. A problem gets too burdensome, then into the furnace with it. So basically the fact that fire can destroy things. You have a problem with something, just burn it. It's gone. It's no longer there. All right? So Montag is there. He's standing in front of his house. And again, Montag was like, Mildred, did you pull the alarm? She doesn't answer him, runs away. And so we're moving on to page 110. Montag starts, okay? He goes into every room and he starts burning things. He talks about he burnt the bedroom walls and the cosmetics chest because he wanted to change everything, the chairs, the tables, and in the dining room, the silverware and plastic dishes, everything that showed he had lived here in this empty house with a strange woman who would forget him tomorrow. So as he's doing this burning, he makes the realization that, wow, like, Mildred's not going to remember me tomorrow. All of this is gone. I want it gone. I want to erase all of this from happening. So it's kind of helping him. It's like therapy almost. Not that you should go around burning things. Please don't do that. That's weird. All right. So then Faber is on his earpiece and he's like, the books, but there's nothing he can do. Montag is just burning everything, all right? So we move on to 111, and Beatty continues to taunt him and kind of say these little comments to him. And he's like, when you're quite finished, said Beatty behind him, you're under arrest. So on page 111, that's a really good line that you might want to focus on. That might be even something you want to use for your online task folder cards when you're describing Beatty. You know, the fact that Beatty is still in control at the end and he's trying to say like, hey, this is what's going on. And so Montag turns around and he's like, was it my wife who turned in the alarm? So he wants to know. And so Beatty nods his head and he says, yeah, but her friends turned in an alarm earlier that I let ride. So Beatty's like saying, I ignored one of the alarms and I let it go, but then your wife called in. So it's like at that point he had to do something about it. All right, and he talks about give a man a few lines of verse and he thinks he's the Lord of all creation. So again, that's that whole idea that books give knowledge, and Beatty is saying you give a few lines to a man and all of a sudden he thinks he's the best thing in the world. Okay, and that's how Beatty feels about books. He's like, you know what, men are not all of a sudden big rulers once they read books. So we're moving on to page 112, all right, and he says, Montag, you idiot. Montag, you damn fool. Why did you really do it? Right? And Faber is on his ear trying to tell him, get out of there, get out of there. And boom, that's when Beatty hits him. Okay, so he hits him and all of a sudden that little piece that was in his ear pops out. Okay, and it lands on the ground. All right, it lands on the ground and Beatty realizes something else is up here. So moving on to page still on page 112, on the bottom of 112, he says, well, so there's more here than I thought. I saw you tilt your head listening. First I thought you had a seashell, but when you turned clever later, I wondered, we'll trace this and drop in on your friend. That's an important point to actively read and make a note of, okay? That right there, Beatty is saying, we're going to trace your friend that's in the seashell, which is Faber, and we're going to find him, and we're going to kill him. Okay, so Montag reacts and he's like, no, because he doesn't want anyone else to get hurt. He's like, it's just me. Let me be the only one that gets hurt, and that's it. So all of a sudden, he takes his flamethrower. I don't have anything to work with here. All right. He takes it and he points it towards Beatty. So he has Beatty basically at gunpoint, but it's not a gun. Again, it's the flamethrower. And he's basically putting him up there. And so Beatty says, oh, that's a great way to get, the attention of your audience. And so at that point, Montag has to make a decision. Is he going to basically burn Beatty, or is he going to just let him go? What's going to happen? And obviously, if you read page 113, you realize that at the very end, Montag tells him, well, in the middle, he tells him, we never burned right, like we didn't do the right thing. And Beatty says, hand it over, with like a smile. And all of a sudden, bam, Montag burns Beatty alive. He basically turns on the flamethrower and flame shoots out and he burns Beatty. And Bradbury uses imagery to describe right there what Beatty looks like while the fire is like engulfing him. He talks about how there was a shrieking blaze, a jumping and sprawling, gibbering mannequin, no longer human. It gets pretty gross actually, and it talks about how like the way that, I don't know if you guys have ever seen anything burn, or if you've put salt on a poor little snail, you see how it like, gets all frothy and gross. So basically, that's what happens to Beatty's body, all right? And Montag is like in a daze at this happening. Beatty flops over and over and over, blah, 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 like that, okay? Kind of crazy. The other two firemen that are there, which is Black and Stone, they're like, did this really just happen? Oh my goodness. So Montag is trying to prevent himself from vomiting. This is all happening on page 113, and he yells at the men, and he's like, turn around. Bam, he hits them with the fire thrower in their heads, and they knock out. So now he's killed Beatty. He's knocked out two firemen. I'm pretty sure this isn't going well for him. We move on to page 114, okay? On page 114, he turns around, and now who's there? The Mechanical Hound, okay? There it is, the Mechanical Hound. He has to react as well. The Mechanical Hound jumps out at him, and so he obviously turns the flamethrower on him and burns the Mechanical Hound. But just before he burns the Mechanical Hound was able to seize his leg. So it says right in the beginning of 114, and I guess this is like the big main paragraph, it says, he felt it scrabble and seized his leg and stabbed the needle in for a moment before the fire snapped the hound up in the air, burst its metal bones at the joints, and blew out its interior in a single flushing of red color like a skyrocket fastened to the street. By the way, that's a simile. He's comparing the red color of the fire that's burning the hound right now like a skyrocket fastened to the street. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen like fireworks, and if you fasten it and how it goes off, that color, right? So again, for your figurative language cards, you might want to pause and write that in. Montag lay watching the dead alive thing fiddle the air and die. Even now it seemed to want to get back at him and finish the injection, which was now working through the flesh of his leg. If you guys remember, this Mechanical Hound shoots out morphine or procaine, which is basically going to numb his leg. So now Montag has killed Beatty, knocked out two firemen, and has killed one Mechanical Hound, all right? So he's got to get out of there, all right? He looks around, the street is empty because no one's out since they're probably inside watching TV, okay? So he's like, what do? I have to go, I have to get out of here, all right? So he's talking to himself at the bottom of 114, get up, get on your feet, easy, like trying to push himself to get moving, because, you know, when you get stuck in a bad moment or when you fall or get hurt, you try to motivate yourself. So he puts weight on it, and all of a sudden there's all this rushing pain that gets on it, and he's like, come on, you can't stay here, you have to move. All of a sudden there's a few lights that start turning on because something weird obviously is happening, and he hears some people that are crying out in the darkness, and he says over here, he reached the backyard and the alley. Beatty, he thought, you're not a problem now. You always said, don't face the problem, burn it. Well, I've done both. So he didn't face the problem and he burned it. Goodbye, Captain. And he stumbled along the alley in the dark, okay? So while this is happening, he's thinking about everything. He's thinking about Mildred. He's thinking about Clarice. He's like, I can't believe I did this. So he's like, go give yourself up. He's like, again, talking to himself on the bottom of page 115. He's like, no, we'll save what we can. We'll do what there is left to do. If we have to burn, let's take a few more of us here. So he remembers the books and he turns back, just in case. He finds a few books that he hid and that Mildred didn't find and burn, all right? And so from those 4 books, he takes them, and all of a sudden he hears other salamanders, which means other people know that there's a situation, and they are all coming to the scene. So he takes those books, he runs away, and just as he's walking away, he looks at the body of Beatty, and he says, Montag took the 4 remaining books. We're on page 116 now, okay? In the second paragraph. Montag took the 4 remaining books and hopped his way down the alley and suddenly fell as if his head had been cut off and only his body lay there. Something inside him jerked him to a halt and flopped him down. He lay where he had fallen and sobbed, his legs folded, his face pressed blindly to the gravel, so he's laying there. Beatty wanted to die. So he makes this connection and realization that Beatty wanted to die, right? In the middle of the crying, Montag knew it for the truth. Beatty had wanted to die. He had just stood there, not really trying to save himself. Just stood there joking, needling, thought Montag. Do you guys know what the word needling means? If you don't, look it up. That could be one of your vocab cards. And thought thought Montag, and the thought was enough to stifle his sobbing and let him pause for air. So he's crying, he's hysterical, and all of a sudden he realizes it, and he's like, and he's able to breathe. How strange. Strange to want to die so much that you let a man walk around armed, and then instead of shutting up and staying alive, you go on yelling at people and making fun of them until you get them mad. And then, so, you know when you like are upset, if someone keeps saying stuff to you, you get more upset to the point where maybe you want to punch them, okay? That's basically what he says. Like, Beatty had a choice. He could have just shut up and then Montag probably would have calmed down, but he didn't. He like kept egging him on, which made things worse, right? So then he hears running and he's like, I gotta go, I gotta move, okay? And then we'll move on to page 116, okay? On page 116, he hears running, so he's, getting paranoid because he knows people are after him. He's like, get up, damn it, get up. Again, he's talking to himself. If you want to put a little note on there, he's talking to himself, making sure that he, gets himself moving. And then finally, because it was just a little bit of morphine that went into his leg, he says he keeps moving this, and then the leg was at last his own leg again. All right. He had been afraid that running might break the loose ankle. Now sucking all the night into his open mouth and blowing it out pale, with all the blackness left heavily inside of him, he set out in a steady jogging pace. He carried the books in his hands. So now he's got the books in his hands and he's running, and his leg is better because, again, the injection wasn't too intense. So he thinks of Faber, and he decides to go back to try to find Faber. But he's looking for his pocket to see if he has the seashell, and all of a sudden he hears, the radio, because they had those other seashell radios, and it says, police, alert, wanted, fugitive in city, has committed murder and crimes against the state, name, Guy Montag, occupation, fireman, last seen, etc. Okay, so that's on the bottom of page 117. That's important because obviously the police now know that he is on the run. He is now a fugitive, so you definitely want to make sure you jot a post-it note down there. He ran steadily for 6 blocks in the alley, and then the alley opened out into a wide, empty thoroughfare 10 lanes wide. Okay, so again, he's hearing all this. Watch for a man running. Watch for the running man. Watch for a man on foot. So they're basically alerting everybody about this. Remember, everybody just listens to the radio and watches TV, so it kind of makes people nervous. It makes him running. So he's like, what do I do? Where do I go? Where do I go? So he has no friends to turn to except for Faber. So he wants to go there. But before he goes there, let's see. He is getting nervous. We're on the bottom of page 118. He's like, I have nowhere to go. Faber's the only person I can go to. He hears the helicopter whirling in the sky. Like, all of these things are making him nervous. Then we move on to 119, okay? He's at a gas station. He sees the attendants that are busy. He goes to the back. He goes to the bathroom. He washes his face, okay? And then on the aluminum wall, he heard a radio voice. So again, on the wall, there's more technology. In case you guys are looking for a technology card, there's an aluminum wall that has a voice that comes out and says, war has been declared. So that's more technology. There's just a random wall that talks out news, okay? The gas was being pumped outside, men and beetles, etc. Nobody really notices him. But the war would have to wait for him to come on to his personal file an hour or 2 hours from now. So in an hour or 2 hours, crazy stuff is probably going to happen because there is war that's happening. Now, we've heard throughout the entire story that war is happening, so I don't know why it's such a big deal now. He washes his hands, he cleans himself up so he doesn't look like a hot mess, and he starts walking away, all right? So he's on 120, and he hears, he's walking, counting his steps, trying to get out of there. It's nothing too crazy important, but he does hear cars that are coming, and they're getting closer and closer, and so he's getting nervous. So he's on 121, and he's like, of course, it's got to be the police. The police are coming after me. So he's like, all right, trying to be sneaky, trying to get by, all right? And he starts getting nervous, and all of a sudden he starts running because he thinks that this car is coming behind him. He starts running. On page 121, he starts running. Montag gasped, flailing his arms, legs up and down, up, down, out, closer, closer, hooting, calling. His eyes burned white. Now as his head jerked about to confront the flashing glare. Now the beetle was swallowed in its own light now. Now it was nothing but a torch hurtling upon him, all sound, all blare, now almost on top of him. So there's this car coming at him, and he's like, it's obviously the cops. They found me. I'm done. It's over. He stumbled and fell. He actually says, I'm done. It's over. All right? But the falling made a difference. An instant before reaching him, the wild beetle cut and swerved out. So this car that was coming at him all of a sudden went, all right, and it went in another direction. And then he hears laughter. So what do you think it was? 121, we go on 122. It was a bunch of stupid kids that were driving their car fast, trying to scare this random person that they saw on the street, because you don't normally see people on the street. So he's like, it wasn't the police. Gosh, right? So then he starts thinking, I wonder if those were the people that killed Clarice. He's like, I wonder. So he wants to yell. He's feeling all types of emotions at this moment, okay? So then he's like, if Montag remained an upright target, so he's like, he's got to get away, he's got to sneak out. So we move to page 123, okay? This is crazy now. Remember, he's got the books, he's been walking around. He approaches a house. The house was silent. We're in the middle of 123. Montag approached from the rear, creeping through the thick night moistened scent of daffodils and roses and wet grass. He touched the screen door in back, found it open, slipped in, moved across the porch listening. Mrs. Black, are you asleep in there, he thought. This isn't good, but your husband did it to others, and never asked and never wondered and never worried. And now, since you're a fireman's wife, it's your house and your turn. For all the houses your husband burned and the people he hurt without thinking. The house did not reply. He hid the books in the kitchen and moved from the house again to the alley and looked back at the house and the house was still dark and quiet, sleeping. A little personification in there. He's saying that the house is sleeping. Okay. What did he just do right there? He just put books into another fireman's house. Right? Remember that crazy plan that they had where they were going to put books in different firemen's houses and set off the alarms? He just did it to one fireman, okay? This was one of the guys that he knocked out. So this is crazy because he's starting his crazy plan, okay? So now we're on the bottom of 123, on his way across town with the helicopters fluttering like torn bits of paper in the sky. He phoned the alarm at a lonely phone booth. So he goes to a phone booth and he actually calls in and says, there are books at da-da-da-da-da house. So maybe not his fire station, but there's going to be a fire station that is going to go to this house and burn that house down because there are books in there. And this lady is not going to even know, all right? So on page 124, he starts hearing the sirens and the salamanders are coming and they're going to come and burn Mr. Black's house while he's away at work. And now she's still asleep. He says, good night, Mrs. Black, he thought. And that's where I wanted you guys to stop, because after this, we're gonna read about how he goes to visit Faber. Anyway, I hope that this little session helped and you'll be ready to move on tomorrow. I really need you guys to watch this. So, all right, add those notes and work on that task folder if you can. All right, bye.